Are you looking north? Well, you ought to be. You ought to be looking south toward the Gulf as well. Bermuda, you need to be looking off to your southwest because you've got a hurricane headed toward you. And the other big weather stories are the heat wave that's taking its grip on the lower 48 as fall takes an early fall vacation. And I keep hearing that the tropics are out of order and may not come back, but I'm going to show you why that may not be the case after all. Welcome into the channel, folks. Jason is my name. Been tracking weather for over 40 years. Got a lot of weather to track with you this morning. We're going to rip through it fast, but I keep it real here, folks. That's what we do. And in the spirit of that, may not feel like fall, but it sure can taste like fall. May I present to you, a big case of goodness. Frosted pumpkin pie Pop-Tarts. If you haven't tried these, you don't know what you're missing. It may not look like or feel like fall outside very much right now, but boy, you put these in the toaster, just sit back and close your eyes. You will be in heaven here on earth, folks. These are delicious. You need to get one right now. Run out to the store before you watch the rest. No, watch the rest of the video first, then run out to the store. But enjoy a Pop-Tart while you watch Cold Rain's Weather World. Drink a cup of coffee. It doesn't get any better than that. And we've got to start the show, though, with some actual weather, and we've got some, and we're going to start here in the tropics. That's right, friends. You never know what you're going to get here on Cold Rain's Weather World. You'll always get a good weather forecast, but I might drop a couple of nuggets that just make life better along the way. That's why you subscribe. We cover everything. We're going to look at the tropics this morning. We're going to look at the weather for the upcoming week over the lower 48, and we're experiencing a strong solar storm out of nowhere, unpredicted. Why is that? What do you think that is? The only reason I can come up with is our weakening magnetic field, which is concerning to say the least as the poles shift around. Got a lot to pay attention to in space weather, and I'll take a look at that here wrapping things up. But right now, things are not all that great out here in the Atlantic. We've got two cyclones, one hanging on for dear life, which is Imelda. It looks like it's getting in the shredder pretty quickly. And then we've got another one, Imelda, out here, and she's trying to get her act together. There's a tropical wave here in the central Atlantic and another one coming off the coast of Africa, but it's not often you see two cyclones this close to the United States, especially out here in the Atlantic, folks. There is Imelda. You can see a nice low-level circulation with these white clouds, counterclockwise spin. Even here, this convection trying to wrap around the center in the mid-levels. Some shear out here. Waters are pretty warm, so that's good for development anyway, but there is Imelda with the cold cloud tops with these bright colors. You can see that. There are your temperatures in terms of water temps, and we've got temperatures in the mid 80s all the way up in here. You can see some upwelling has occurred in some of these areas here closer in toward the coast, and the weaker colors here indicate a little bit of a cooler water, but Imelda's going to be tracking over these 28 degrees Celsius waters toward Bermuda. This is temperatures in the mid 80s, low to mid to upper 80s as we get on down to the Caribbean. And there we go. That's what's going to be in Imelda's path as she tracks toward Bermuda, and all the guidance pretty much takes it up here into Category 1 strength, close to Category 2 on a couple of models, but looks like it's going to be a Category 1 as it makes its way toward Bermuda. So Bermuda, you need to be on alert. Maybe start thinking about batting down the hatches a little bit, covering some of the windows with those shutters, and certainly capturing anything that's loose in the yard or on the deck. Okay, there is the official forecast track. Here is Bermuda for those of you that can't see it. Hurricane watches are up here, and it is making a beeline. Most of the guidance takes it right over. In the meantime, here up and down the United States, rip currents are a problem all the way up here over the course of the week. Turn around, don't drown. We hear that in terms of driving. You need to hear that in terms of swimming too. If you got vacation plans, watch those flags, stay out of the water. In terms of going way out there, you don't want to get caught in a rip current and put rescue personnel at risk or yourself at risk too. And there is Umberto going to be weakening slowly over the course of the week and become a tropical storm here by the time we get on into Thursday or Friday. As it weakens out in the Atlantic, it will miss Bermuda and then head on off toward the northeast and die a death here in the Atlantic and become extra tropical as well. There is I'm showing the GFS today just so the GFS can get one right for a change. All the models pretty much take it over or near Bermuda, so I'm going to show what the GFS does, and watch this. So there it goes over the next couple of days. It's going to get it on here into Wednesday afternoon, overnight, Wednesday night, and Thursday in the overnight hours, early Thursday morning. It'll make a pass over Bermuda, so it's going to happen at nighttime. A lot of wave action out here in the Atlantic too over the course of the week. We're going to see wave heights and choppy waters all throughout the western Atlantic over the next 7 days or so. So be very, very careful. Keep the boats in the dock pretty much. But that's what happens as we run this on out. You don't see anything else until we get on out toward the weekend. And look at this down in the Gulf. What in the world is this? Well, some energy in the mid-levels is going to combine with a little bit of energy in the low levels to create potentially a tropical depression down here in the Gulf as we work toward late in the weekend. GFS actually doesn't spend a long time over the Gulf. It runs it back in, brings some moisture into the southeast. That is definitely a possibility, and if we run this on out into fantasy land, we just have nothing but little low pressure spinning up here along the Central America, and some of those get into the Gulf and the Caribbean as they've been doing all summer on the GFS, and that has not turned into reality, but that's what the GFS shows. So we'll give it its due in terms of being right here in the first 72 hours, and after that we'll have to see what happens. But that's what's going on in the near term in the tropics. Now, got a couple of things that people have been saying. I've been reading social media, tropics are dead, probably not coming back, and other people are saying, well, no, that's not the case, and I'm in the that's not the case camp, and I'll show you why. Here is the vertical motion potential in the Atlantic. You can see this out here, okay? See, this is the Atlantic. Look at these orange colors. This is sinking air. This is 12 hours out, so this is what's going on right now. We'll continue to watch that area as we go on out in time here. Get on out into the weekend. Still got some orange colors, but things start to eventually, as we get on out toward Monday, October the 6th, the 7th, and get on in toward the end of the first week, beginning of the second week in October. Look, we have some greens out here indicating rising motion potential and instability. That would be very favorable. Look at all these greens as we get on in toward mid-October. That would be very favorable for tropical development. Now, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. Other things need to matter as well, like warm water temperatures. We certainly have those. Check this out. This is the shear anomaly map. So if we run this on out and get into that same time frame, we start to see a lot of reds here as we work into the first week of October, but things kind of lightening up, and we get some whites and blues in the main development region down in this region. And as we go on out toward the end of October, or the end of the period, which would take us through mid-October, we start to see some of those blues entering the Caribbean. That would be a lower shear environment over here, and even along the southeast coast, Gulf, Caribbean, looking at lower shear potentially combining with instability out in the Atlantic and warm water temperatures. If we get some wave action going into these areas, we could start to see an uptick in tropical development. Right now, we're not looking at anything imminent. After these two hurricanes, or tropical storm and hurricane, move on out, Imelda is still a tropical storm, but it's approaching hurricane status. So that's what's going on right now, folks, in the Atlantic. That's what I see coming up over the next 10 to 15 days. So we're going to watch it, as we will do until hurricane season is officially over, okay? That's what we've got in the tropics. Now we're going to take a look at the weather forecast for the rest of the week, but I've got your weather IQ question coming up right now first. All right, weather IQ question coming up. I do this almost every day to have a little bit of fun, but also to keep you on your toes and make sure we're all increasing our weather knowledge together. And today's question is about snowfall, and here it is. Which contiguous U.S. city, that would be states that touch each other, excluding Alaska, of course, and Hawaii, which contiguous U.S. city receives the highest annual snowfall? Buffalo, New York, Great Falls, Montana, Syracuse, New York, or Fargo, North Dakota? All right, if you know the answer, type it in the comments, or if you want to guess, just put it down there. If not, then all you got to do is just wait till the end of the show, and I'll tell you the answer, of course. But right now, I've got to tell you about the weather for the rest of the week where you live. All right, we're going to start with the satellite image, and boy, it really shows some interesting stuff here, particularly across the eastern U.S. Yeah, and stuff is a technical meteorological term. I went to school for 4 years to learn about stuff. Well, here's some of that stuff. It's cloud cover, and we've got an interesting situation. It's sort of a tropical cold air damming scenario. You can see the counterclockwise swirl around these tropical cyclones out here, but all this tropical moisture is coming in, got high pressure in the north, and is funneling in cooler and drier air at the surface, and you got a shallow cool dome, and all this moisture is flowing over top, providing a lot of clouds with that lift, and even some precipitation is falling, and that precipitation will be rain, showers, and drizzle for parts of the southeast and mid-Atlantic, which we'll see on radar in a minute. We've got another batch of energy moving through the central portion of the country, not really producing a lot of rain, but definitely producing clouds. Big front that came in yesterday in the West Coast is providing rain and clouds up and down the Intermountain West and northern Rockies here. And as we get on out into the Pacific, there's another big storm system out here ready to throw another front into the West Coast and bring you guys some rain out there where you need the rain. Now, this is the mid-level energy maps up about 19,000-ish feet up into the atmosphere. And we can see energy associated with the two tropical cyclones. Here's a high pressure ridge sitting here. This is where we're starting the week, with a big high pressure center sitting up here and flow around that. You can see the trough here in the west with flow coming up out of Canada and back around to the northeast. That's where the main jet stream is. That's why nothing is really, we're not seeing big storm systems here impacting the central and eastern United States. But watch what happens as we go on through the week. Get on here into Tuesday into Wednesday. High pressure ridge starts to migrate to the east, but we've still got a feed. You can see these wind barbs coming out of the north here along the eastern slopes of the Alps, or out in the east of the Alps. That'll keep us in a cool air feed out here, at least keep us a little bit cooler or near normal. And that's what we're looking at, but very warm here in the center of the country with southerly flow. And that ridge begins to migrate a little bit back to the west, but you can see it kind of comes back east again as we get on in toward the weekend. Another system, there it comes, moving into the west, keeping you guys unsettled. It'll eventually close off through the weekend. Energy rotating down here, getting into the Gulf here on this model could end up sparking a little bit of a low pressure system in the Gulf, which we definitely have to keep our eye on this time of year, and we get on out through the weekend. The flow pattern doesn't change all that much. We're going to have a trough generally in the west, big ridge in the east. That means bam, 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 hot weather, warm weather through the central portion of the country. Where it's not cloudy and raining, it'll be above normal. And that is the regime, folks. Fall has taken a vacation. Here is what we can expect from a precipitation standpoint as we go through the week. Rain winding down along the east coast as we get on out into Wednesday. Rain coming back to the west coast, Intermountain West. We'll eventually see a storm system begin to form out here as we get later into the weekend. There's some Gulf rain and some rain around Florida as we get on into Saturday. But the storm system could form here out in the plains and bring some severe weather back into the picture with tornadoes and potentially hail and things like that. And we're going to keep our eyes on the Gulf too as we get on into the weekend. But other than that, very nice in the Northeast, Great Lakes, Midwest, Central and Southern Plains, much of the Mid-South. Going to clear out and have a nice, albeit warm weather as we get on in through the week. There is your forecast temperatures. Tuesday, Wednesday, these aren't actual temperatures, these are anomalies showing you where it's warmer than normal or cooler than normal. Certainly cooler than normal coming back in toward midweek up toward the northeast, but here in the middle of the country, we're looking at temperatures 10, 15, 20 degrees above normal. And we're going to see that just continue. We get a little bit into the end of the week here and see that cold air damming take place again on strong high pressure as those tropical systems move away. The backside flow is going to help to anchor in a high pressure along the coast, keeping us cooler than normal here along the east and cooler than normal along the west as that other storm system and trough moves in. But boy, in the center of the country, you guys are going to bake in the fall, summer. Boy, it's more like late summer temperatures than fall weather. Fall is gone. And that's what we're looking at as we get on in toward the weekend. And that regime just sort of sits in place. It migrates to the east. And you can see as we get on out toward next week, look at that. Cooler out west, but warmer in the east. Looking at radar this morning, we were looking at rain from Charlottesville all the way down through Charlotte into Columbia, back scattered showers into Charleston, South Carolina. As we roll this along through the course of the afternoon, we'll start to see that rain pick up again toward the center portion of the I keep calling this the country. It wants to just come out. It's the Carolinas, folks. That's what we're looking at. Central portion of the Carolinas over the course of the day today. As we get on into the afternoon, we'll see showers across parts of the southeast, but they'll be scattered in nature, but lots of clouds and drizzle will hang around as the system begins to pull away overnight, leaving us with a northeast flow with probably clouds and low clouds and some drizzle as we head through the day tomorrow. That should be being wiped out as the system moves away and we start to warm up. Now out west, got rain this morning from Spokane all the way over to Kalispell, I think that is, Missoula down to Salmon and back into Elko, Nevada. We're seeing rain this morning. As we go on through the day, that will dissipate and we'll start to see showers break out here in the Four Corners region. That other front comes into the west, bringing more rain for you all out here. Probably going to end up with a couple of inches, particularly along the coast. A little bit less as we work inland, but you can see rain through the overnight hours. That'll dissipate eventually and move out of the picture as we work toward tomorrow morning, and then showers pick back up again as that flow just continues to pull in off the Pacific out west. Look in terms of actual temperatures. Cooler up in the northeast today and along the east coast with clouds and showers, 80s and mid 80s all the way up to the northern border in the northern plains. A little bit cooler out west with showers and cloud cover around. Same again tomorrow, just a little bit cooler up into the northeast. That wedging hangs on. Going to be warm and muggy over the south with 90s up through the mid-Mississippi Valley. And Thursday, same exact regime in place again. High reinforcing high comes in Thursday and Friday, cooling us off out here in the east. Cool in the west with a trough working in. And you can see that same pattern takes place, 90s up to Wisconsin and toward lower Michigan and Illinois back down into, we get to the mid-90s down here in southern Texas. And that's your temperature forecast through the rest of the week. 8 to 14 days. This is October the 7th through the 13th. It takes us toward mid-October. Barf, look at this map. Very, very warm out here in the east. Normal to below out west, Hawaii and Alaska above. And the precipitation normal to above here in the central and western portion of the country, even the southeast and across southern Texas where you need it, much above here in Alaska potentially and above in Hawaii. And that is your weekly forecast, folks. That is the Weekday Planner. Now we're going to take a look at the space weather event that is happening right now and see if we can make sense of it. Well, we have been under strong geomagnetic storm conditions. Why? Well, your guess is as good as mine. We had an increase in solar wind, but that doesn't really explain the strength of the solar storm because it was just normal solar wind. It wasn't exceptionally fast and there was no big plasma density associated with it. But that's what happened, and we got, you can see here on the KP, got up to strong geomagnetic storm conditions. That is backing off now. M-class solar flares are all that has been observed coming off the sun. We've got some sunspots that are turning toward us. They are increasing in size and complexity, and we'll continue to watch those as the risk for stronger solar flares will continue to rise. Nothing on the coronagraph, but here's your enlil, and this shows the solar wind. And you can see a wave that hit us, and additional solar wind is predicted in our direction. So we'll watch what happens in terms of how that impacts the magnetosphere. But only thing I can think of is that we have a weakening magnetic field due to the ongoing pole shift. And so that's probably the result why that strong event happened. But if you have a different theory or other ideas, type them in the comments. I'm all ears. Aurora viewing tonight could be possible. We'll watch how the solar wind impacts the atmosphere, but could see an aurora take place this evening and tonight across the northern tier. Keep your eyes to the north for that, maybe even tomorrow night too. We'll watch it. And we'll watch to see if any linkage occurs between space weather and geological weather, but right now we're not seeing any earthquakes, no new big shakes across the planet, certainly nothing going on in our backyard. The moon is continuing to brighten, 55.6% waxing gibbous on its way to a full moon, October the 6th. That will be a harvest moon, and we'll watch that come up over the horizon. Maybe it'll be orange. And we're 30 days and change from Halloween. Today's the last day of September. Tomorrow's the first day of October, the best month of the year. Is that right? I think it is. Maybe December. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for the show today, folks. Got to get you the answer, though, to the weather IQ question. And here it is. Which contiguous U.S. city receives the highest annual snowfall? Let me get here on a white screen so we can actually see the question. Buffalo, New York, Great Falls, Syracuse, or Fargo, North Dakota? And the answer is Syracuse, New York. 127.8 inches per year they receive. That's a lot of snow. I wonder if any of that is lake effect snow. I'm sure that it is. And that is the answer for today's IQ question. Also, on this day back in 2008, you remember what was going on in 2008? Yeah, it was the financial crisis. A lot of people lost a lot of money. Some people made a lot of money, but it was a big deal across the entire world. If you haven't seen that movie, The Big Short, you ought to watch it. It's pretty good. On this day back in 2008, the U.S. stock market experienced its largest single-day point drop at that time. Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged 777 points during the global financial crisis. It's since gone down much more than that. I think it went down 1,500 or even 2,000. I think it's dropped 2,000 since then when we've had some of the COVID stuff going on. But in any event, that was a rough day, folks. But then we turned around and the Fed intervened and monetization of the financial markets happened, and now everybody's watched the stock market just keep going up and up and up and up. Can't happen forever, but it's happening right now. Anyway, hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, folks. That is the show for today. You know about financial data, you know about weather. And as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you the weather runs 24/7, but I got you covered right here, right now, 48-14. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.